Hey, welcome to this week's episode of the And Both podcast. Today, I'm talking with Danielle Alvarez. She's a mom of three who decided that during a pandemic to leave the business she'd been running for years and go to law school. Her kids were 6, 5, and 1, and she did it anyways. We talk about what it looked like day to day, how she navigated the noise of other people's opinions, and why it mattered to her to become the kind of lawyer she couldn't find when she needed one as a small business owner. It's a conversation about not chasing something shiny. It's about figuring out what actually fits, choosing it, and figuring out how to take incremental steps along the way to get to where you want to go. Here's Danielle. Welcome to And Both, a podcast about what it really looks like to put yourself on the list while raising kids and doing all the other things life asks of you. I'm your host, Ashley Blackington, and on this show, you'll hear conversations with moms who are figuring it out in their own ways, plus a few solo episodes from me from time to time. It's not about having all the answers. It's about sharing stories, learning from each other, and knowing we don't have to choose between either or when we're living in the middle of and both. Let's get into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the And Both podcast. I am here today with Danielle Alvarez. Danielle, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm excited. I'm excited to chat because I think, you're doing cool stuff. I am so lucky. I get to meet so many cool women on here. And we talk about really fun things. But before we do that, how about if you let people know what you'd like them to know about you, please?
Sure. So my name is Danielle. I am a mom of three. And when I was 30, I decided to leave kind of everything that I knew in terms of my career, which was operating and owning a competitive dance studio, and go to law school. So it was the pandemic. My kids were 6, 5, and 1. And I just did it anyway when everyone kind of told me I was crazy. And now I'm a corporate attorney and I just launched my own firm for small businesses.
That's cool. There's so many women that I know. I feel like there are, maybe now that it's been enough years since the pandemic, but there are so many people who I've had the chance to connect with, or friends of mine who went into that space and were kind of like, screw it. Nothing makes sense anymore. And so if nothing makes sense when the world is fine, when this is all winky wonky donkey, why don't we just do it?
Yeah. I'm a big believer in that. It's like one day at a time. And I mean, the time's going to pass you by anyway. That's something else people were telling me. They're like, yeah, but when you graduate, you're going to be 36. And I was like, yeah, well, if I'm lucky, one day I'll just be 36 anyway. So I might as well be 36 and a lawyer,
Right. And also at that time, there wasn't even a guarantee of 36. If you had to go to the grocery store or whatever, no one knew what was going on.
We had no idea. We were terrified.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good way to put it. Nothing made sense anyway. So I'm glad I did something that also technically didn't make sense.
Yeah, whatever. And so what made you pivot from dance to law?
So I was the kind of kid that people would argue with and the adults would argue with and then say something like, well, you're going to be a lawyer one day, which was kind of like also saying, can I curse here?
Oh, yeah. Fire away.
Also kind of like telling a kid without saying it, like, you're kind of an asshole. So I was like, oh, you know what? Yeah, maybe I will be a lawyer. And then when I graduated high school, I was like, yep, I'm just going to go get my English degree because I love to read and write. And then I'll go to law school from there. And it just didn't work out that way, but it was always in the back of my head, like, what if? And then after doing the dance studio stuff for a decade, I was bored and I was a little unfulfilled. And I thought, I can't just do the same thing forever. I've never been that way. I'm always pivoting and trying new things. And so I just went back to that original dream. And at that point too, I had already had a couple of issues as a small business owner where I needed a lawyer, but I couldn't afford one, or I couldn't find one that was accessible, which is what ultimately led to the firm that is today, which is it's a flat fee transactional firm. So there's no endless retainer. It's what do you need? Okay, here's how much it costs. And this is exactly what you're getting for that money. And, just being the lawyer that I needed at that time. And I'm so glad I did it because I did end up selling the studio and it just feels right. When you land in this new place and you're like, here I am.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So your kids were 6, 5, and 1, or they are 6, 5, and 1?
No, they were. So they're now 11, 10, and 6.
So how did you navigate that going to law school? Because when I was in college, I used to study in the law library. Like the university I went to had a bunch of different libraries, and I used to study in the law library because I was intense is a light term for me as a student. And when you go to the regular main library and kids are throwing footballs, and you're like, listen, I am here on a mission. And so I sort of bounced up in intensity to the law library and was like, I have found my people. Like,
Yeah.
you can't even breathe wrong in there without someone being like, stop, leave.
It's a different world. That's true.
But so how did you, and they're there all the time. Like I remember they're there all the time. So much so that basically you had your own desk. Like I could leave my books there. And I sat at the same desk, and somehow I was quiet enough and did not take up any space in anyone's life that they allowed me to stay, because I am fully sure that they would have deposited my books at the front door and been like, thank you, no, you are too loud. Which is a real badge of honor for me as a student. I was like, look, I'm so serious. Like, okay, you're also 19. But so how did you navigate kids that age with that level of intensity of schooling?
So it was a couple of things. Number one, it really does take a village. My husband and I are very blessed with healthy parents, healthy and helpful parents, very close by. My sisters are close by, and my husband is just so helpful, and he just really has always championed me. So I had the village. That was part of it. The other thing is timing. It was 2020. And so half of my classes were actually on Zoom, and they did not encourage us to stay on campus. They wanted us home to study. And I live about 30 minutes from school, so I was here a lot, right? And then the other side of that is really I had an internal understanding that I could not be one of those students that lives in the library regardless. I understood that I'm going through this process and that I have these outside responsibilities that maybe I won't be valedictorian. And I wasn't, right? I did well enough for sure. But, I don't have what these younger students have, which is the luxury of all of their time being available for this one goal. I have, an array of goals, and I understand that I can do this, but maybe I can't do it to the point where where I did undergrad, right? Because undergrad, I was like you, summa cum laude, I was in it to win it. And so I think with that, not setting an unrealistic expectation on myself on what I could really fully accomplish. I didn't do, they have law review and moot court, which is the two main things that you do in law school if you want to go the big law route. I didn't have time to do those things. And I was realistic with myself. I can just work towards a really strong GPA. I can do really interesting internships. And that's kind of where I focused it. So it was a whole, an ecosystem of things that allowed me to do it, because it wasn't easy, right? It was one day at a time, but it wasn't easy to balance. And I'm a strong believer in no matter what you want to do, there's a way to do it. And sometimes it's going to be really hard for one person and really easy for another, but there's a way to do it if you really want it.
Yeah. And also too, it's so important to point out that the way one person does it is, if that is different from the person sitting next to them, it's not that one person is doing it right. It's that you're doing it in the way that's an option for you. Having that realistic inventory of where your energy, where your attention, where your time can go, and saying, all right, given this is it, right? Because I firmly believe that kids are the ones that make firm boundaries around our life. Yeah. They lock in time, they lock in energy, all of those things. And that's I think one of the beauties of having kids, because otherwise we would just all run. I would just run 24 hours a day with an intensity that is not healthy or helpful or sustainable. But that when you have something that is, someone needs to eat breakfast, someone needs to eat lunch, there's bedtime, there's all of these things. And yes, having a village means that you can flex in some of those pieces, but having this real honest inventory when you're coming up with a plan is something that I think should be shouted from the rooftops always.
Absolutely. We are all the sum of our parts, right? All of our experiences. And so anytime that we undertake a goal that is, law school is a 3-year goal, right? And I did the JD MBA, by the way. I did 4 years because I figured I'm not coming back. So it's this long-term goal. And I think the approach is so dependent on the sum of your parts and everything you've experienced so far. And so while I did have all of these boundaries set by my children, I like the way you put that, I also had kind of a groundedness to my approach to things and an understanding that like this one bad grade or this one bad experience is not the end of the world. Whereas the younger students who had this, this intense focus on this one goal of theirs, and the only way that it could turn out is the way that they had envisioned it in their mind, which of course is never true. They were far more anxious than I was. Meanwhile, I had all this other stuff that I had to deal with and contend with and take care of. And so it really just depends on how you build it out for yourself. And I think as women, and I've done this to myself many, many times before, especially prior to children, I set myself up under these expectations that no one else has of me, right? It's just me. And then I don't meet them. And then I feel like a failure. And really, I've already accomplished what I set out to do, but not at that level of perfection that's just not real. And so taking inventory of your life as a whole and then setting, realistic expectations about yourself along those lines, it gives you grace. It allows you to give yourself grace and you enjoy it more that way.
Yeah. I mean, I think too, that's also such an important point is that the level that we put ourselves at is not ever sustainable. Because I think that's that idea of like, when you get into that dream state about what the thing is that you want to do, it's like, okay, well, I want to go to law school. All right. I want to do this, and this with law school. And like, if I don't run it out all the way till the end, then it isn't, it's like getting your money's worth or something, like some sort of mentality to it, right? It's like, if I'm going to do life, I have to do 100% in every direction all the time.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, I guess it could be the same for men, but I know from experience myself and friends of mine that as women, like we really push ourselves when you're a woman with a goal, like you really push yourself and then you push yourself to burnout and it's not necessary because exactly like you said, you have this like vision, especially when it's something that's, law school's been around for hundreds of years, right? There's like a way to do it, right? It's like a very old school kind of, but that's no longer the case. I mean, everything is changing. The world is changing. The way that we work is changing. I mean, you can have, my law firm is totally virtual. I'll never have an office because I don't need it, right? And I get to pass those savings down to the client, right? So it's like, there's this like very specific way of doing it. And when you hold yourself to a standard that's not designed for you, or that's not even designed for the times, you're burning yourself out. And for what?
Yeah. I guess on that same vein, did you, when you thought about what it was going to mean before you started, and then going through the process of those 4 years there, how did that change for you over that time?
I'm first gen everything. So it is the highlight of my father's life that I went to the University of Miami. So I'm born and bred here. My parents came from Cuba when they were very young to become a lawyer, which is like in the Cuban culture, it's like lawyer, doctor, architect. That's what they want you to become. Engineer, maybe. Right? So when I got in, I had the realistic understanding of like what I would be able to do considering all my other responsibilities, but I still had the goal of becoming a big corporate attorney, right? Because that is kind of what I set my sights on. That's what I was good at. I did the MBA to like fully support that, right? And so when I graduated, I went that route and I did mergers and acquisitions. And I got to tell you, I was very unhappy. It was a very prestigious title, good firm. It was like the thing that like my parents bragged about. And even at my big age, like you still have that thing, right? For your parents. And it took me a while, but that I did come to the realization that when I set out to like design this experience for myself, I hadn't set out to design the culmination of the experience for myself. I was still going down that route of self-imposed expectation. And I was really unhappy for a while. I learned a lot. It was very, very useful, the experience, but I was really unhappy. So I guess I recently course corrected and doing my own thing and serving the clients that I like to serve and doing the kind of work that I find meaningful. So yeah, it gets you sometimes.
Yeah. My oldest is very, very into dance. And I was driving her to class last night, and she turns 13 soon and is sort of like in that tipping point of like, I don't know, just things are less fuzzy and becoming not concrete, but just sort of like the years in which she will be at home and that is her responsibility and the activities and stuff are winding down. And I will try and say that without crying. But and so she's now sort of thinking about that. And I said to her, and it's funny because I couldn't even like finish the sentence, but I was like, what do you want to do someday? Like, do you have ideas about this? And then I was like, oh wait, no, like that's not the right question.
Yeah.
The right question is, how do you want to feel?
Yeah.
And what do you want your life to be like? And, like when she started to answer the like, what do you want to do? She's like, I want to do this. And it's sort of that like titles that get put out, right? Like lawyer, dentist, fire person, whatever. Mm-hmm. And it was a much more rich answer of like, when she pivoted to how do I want my days to be and how do I want to feel and what do I want to do? It was sort of like this, she's got such an idea about how she wants to be in the world. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, the career is kind of the last part of the equation, really.
It is. Yeah.
And how do you facilitate? And I think too, like to your point about law school is virtual, your office is virtual, all of those things. It doesn't necessarily mean that the whole world is going to be virtual, mm-hmm. but that we are not bound by the shoulds and what things should look like.
Right.
Which is very cool.
Right. Yeah. I have that same, I try very hard to not do what my parents did in that realm of, okay, so what of these 3 career choices, which one are you going to go down, right? Meanwhile, there's a billion options. Mm-hmm. And I still have this like internal, I guess it's like from that immigrant upbringing of, if my son told me that he wanted to be a musician, I might die, right? Because I don't want my son to be a starving musician. However, I also recognize that if I put in the work to succeed in the way that I envision my success, which is, where my sons could go and be a starving musician because they wouldn't have to worry about, right, where they're going to live and all that stuff, then I could let them find their passion without the pressure of providing for themselves and providing for their family and providing. Not to say that I'd bail them out. It's that if I can just switch the mindset to saying like they're not going to have that concern, then I can let them figure out what they like and then find a way to do that in a way that allows them to have a prosperous and happy life, even if it's very simple, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I work on that. And the other side of that too is, helping them to land in schools and getting education that opens doors for them that I didn't have open for myself, right? And in doing that, they have more options to explore and that. And then, so I'm trying not to limit them, but I am trying to expose them, right? Mm-hmm. So that they can figure out, what is it that makes you feel like you're making a difference? What feels meaningful to you? Because I realized as much as I wanted to be a big corporate attorney, I didn't realize how empty it felt for me. Not to say that others don't feel fulfilled by that work, but for me, that wasn't enough. It wasn't enough purpose for me. And so that's kind of what I want them to find. What makes you feel like proud of yourself when you wake up in the morning, you get to do that work, and then you say, yeah, that was a good day.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a really cool tipping point for our generation of children.
Yeah.
You don't have that. I feel like the career day. Did you do that when you were in high school? And they're like, career day, or you fill out the survey and they tell you like, this is your job or whatever. I don't even remember what my job was.
Mine was, you're enough of an asshole to be an attorney. So that's perfect for you. I was like, all right, the right path.
You're like, listen, I understood the assignment. It may have taken me a minute to get here, but eventually we're going to circle back.
Yeah, it's a quick decade of a detour.
That's hilarious. I'm sure. I wish that I had mine still.
I had an attorney who, when she would hire for her firm, even interns, she would have us do like a personality test.
Mm-hmm.
And that was cool because still an asshole. So I was like, all right, still on track here. But it also said, it's like, you should definitely not work for anybody else. You should only work for yourself. Yeah, you got to find like an adult one.
Mm-hmm.
Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, it's those. I've seen those. Those are the ones like that. I feel like those make me sweat. Like being my kids were like, why did you start your own company? Why do you do this or whatever? And I was like, guys, I am fundamentally unemployable. And they're like, what does that mean? I'm like trying to teach my kids, like, you got to like work in groups and get along with people and all that stuff. I'm like, I just have not had the benefit of having great people to work under, to the point that like, it's like, oh no. The best boss I ever had, I actually told my daughter this, the best boss I ever had was the guy that owned a restaurant that I worked at when I was like 17, 18 years old, because he would actually jump in and do the dishes if stuff had to happen. Yep. He would help run food out to the tables. He would go pick people up at their house and bring them. It was like somebody who actually understood and treated the people that they worked with as a person.
Yep.
And I was like, I would show up for him all day long because I knew he would show up for everybody else.
He's in the trenches with you. I think that that is something that a lot of leaders fail to realize, is that if you're too good to do the work, that people are not going to want to do that work for you. And so you have to be able to get to, number one, to understand every level of your business, right? And every experience within your business. And then let those people know that if you couldn't do this, I'd do it for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
My issue with leadership is that I can always think of a more efficient way to get something done. And if you refuse to implement this efficient way, I just can't fathom it. I lose respect. Like, I have a serious problem. Like, this is the dumbest way that we could possibly be doing this thing that we do every day. Yeah. Have you ever considered not doing it so stupidly? Usually the answer is like, no, we actually really like to do it that way. I'm like, well, okay, great.
I gotta go. Yeah. No, I was writing this post on LinkedIn about this, about how like, AI is everywhere now, and everyone's like, AI is the thing and AI is going to solve all our problems. And I'm like, AI is not actually going to solve our problems.
No.
It's a different hammer, right? Like you need a different hammer for a different job, but the person who swings the hammer is the person who actually does the job.
Yeah. So my thing with the AI is specific to the law, right? Because that's a huge conversation, right?
Yes.
What are lawyers going to do when AI can draft everything for you? The answer to that is, and this is, I guess it applies to everything in life. If you don't know the right questions to ask, you cannot get the right answers. And so a lot of people are like, well, and a lot of people send me contracts that they've drafted with AI. And I'm like, hey, this is a really good, like, these are good bones. But what you don't know, because you don't have the background, is you're missing 10 different things here. But if you don't know what a contract is supposed to be for this specific issue, you don't know what's supposed to be in it. And therefore, if ChatGPT is missing something, you can't fill that blank in with your experience. And so I agree with you. I think people are looking at this at like a solution, and it is a tool. And you can only wield that tool as well as you know the context in which you are using it. And I'm so tired of reading AI LinkedIn posts. I can't even begin to tell you. I'm so tired of it. I could recognize that pattern from 3 miles away. I'm like, oh, again, drives me crazy.
I do think like in production of things, like the way that I use it and I look at it is this idea of what gets fed into AI is my stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't ever show up and I'm like, hey, my BFF AI and, personal assistant, I need you to draft this, and this. It's like, how do I go through and clean this up a little bit? How do I go through? And then how do I take that draft and then go through that and make it not sound like, this episode is for you if. Sometimes I leave it in. I'm like, yeah, let's see who gets annoyed about it.
It's a thought partner. It's your ideas, and then it's someone on the other end that can really quickly get back to you with their ideas, right? In a sense, right? Or an expansion on that idea. So I can see, I mean, I use it every day. I use AI every day. As someone, like for me as an entrepreneur, the hardest part of my day is what do I do today, right? A boss is going to tell you what you need to do. When you have a million things to do, it's hard for me personally to figure out what's the most effective use of my time today. And so it's my boss in that sense. I'm like, hey, what should I get done today? Like if that, these are my goals for the week. How should I like frame my to-dos? Because I need my day to be spicy. I can't have like the same day every day. It doesn't work for me. So I got to like switch it up. So I use it in that way. I use it, like you're saying, as a thought partner. Like I've got paragraphs of ideas and I need to make it more succinct. And it's helpful for that.
Yes. Hey, it's Ashley. When I started my business, my first business, it felt like I had two options: figure it out on my own or pay a high ticket price for a coach. And there was nothing in between. I was a beginner trying to make smart decisions without burning myself out or my savings. So I built what I wish had existed. This course is 6 clear, practical modules that take you from first decisions to launch and beyond. No fluff, just guidance, structure, and support. And no how bad do you want it, or we all have the same 24 hours in the day guilt trips. I created it to help women build lives and businesses on their own terms, not just to sell a course. Listeners can take 20% off with the code NURTURED20. For more information, go to andbothpodcast.com. So your kids now, they having gone through that experience, how did they, when you went through that experience of like, hey, mom's going back to school, mom is doing this, like how did that look for them in terms of like conversations afterwards? Like, hey, remember when mom was doing this? Like what is their experience of that for you?
I don't know that they have memories of a before and then during, right? Because they're so young. Yeah, they're so little. They know that I went to school. They know when they were there to watch me graduate and get sworn in. And now it's kind of like what I'm hoping that I can see maybe a little further down the line is that they understand that there's just no excuse for anything. If I went to school when you guys were even more of a pain in the ass than you are now, because I have 3 boys, so it's just nonstop in this house, right? If I was able to do that then you can't tell me that you're unable to do this. You can do it. You can do anything you want. And so that was kind of part of the driving force, like on the days where it was really hard, was I wanted to be able to not only show my kids that I was able to do this, but at the time I had 100 students, competitive dance students, right? Girls that knew that I was undertaking this goal, and they were older. Well, some of them were younger, but many of them were older. And so they understood, what kind of an undertaking that was. And so to be able to show them and my kids, it really felt meaningful to me that, I mean, I had all the excuses not to do it, right? I had very good reasons, not excuses, but like I had good reasons to put it off. And then I just didn't. And so, I mean, I'm hoping that that's what they'll take from it. What they like now is that, they'll say things like if someone says something about the law, they're like, I'll ask my mom, she's a lawyer. And I'm like, yeah, do tell him. And a big part of like the law in terms of the way it touches my house is every chance I get, every time I remember, I'm like, hey, you never talk to the police. You tell him you want a lawyer. One word. What's the word? Just lawyer. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. And then you don't say anything, and then I'm coming in.
Not a word. Not a word. They're not allowed to. I try to, on the criminal law side, I'm like, listen, if you ever get in trouble, even if you didn't do anything, you'd never talk to the police.
You just sit. I'm waiting for my mom.
One word. Yeah, exactly.
Mom, I need help. This is the bell
tell your friends.
Oh my gosh. I love that. I think that there's a really strong parallel. Well, in a lot of ways, I think there's a really strong parallel between that experience of like, I am trying to do something that's really hard and I'm trying to do something that's really hard for me. And the product of all of that work will someday be evident to everybody. But the process of going through that is not always what shows up on the front page. And I think I love that for this conversation, because I think that there are so many people out there who are like, I want to do this thing, whether it's school, whether it's having another kid, whether it's starting a business, whether it's changing jobs or choosing to like leave the workforce, whatever those decisions are, I think there's so much that happens in the in between these goalposts and these mile markers that we have of accomplishments in life that I always think it's really important to share the stories of people in that, because it is
Yeah.
always easier. I mean, 8 o'clock on a Tuesday night, it is easy to sit on my couch after I'm tired. It is not easy to get up and go into the office and write another email or to like feed my to-do list into ChatGPT and say like, I need you to tell me what to do.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I agree with you. And I also think that a big part of the disconnect for a lot of people, and I would say that this is across generations, it's not even, like a Gen Z or millennial or whatever thing, is that we have the social media highlight reel in our face all the time. People are constantly posting and reposting the end goal, right? Or the success, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's hard to be in the process and then also feel successful. And so so the opposite of feeling successful is feeling like a failure sometimes. And so you're in it and you're like, man, nothing's happening, or, is this going to pay off? And you have all that doubt creep in. And I think the best advice that I could give to someone is the mantra of what I told myself when I was in the thick of it, is that this is going to take me X amount of time, but X amount of time will arrive. It will always arrive. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
God willing, right? But I think that experience in the middle is what makes that final product so rewarding, right?
Yeah. Yeah, agree. I agree 1,000,000%. I also feel like the intention around social media used to be that we shared the journey.
Right.
And that was why so many people gravitated towards it.
Mm-hmm.
I still harken back to the beautiful, wonderful, magical days of social media where I just got to see what everyone ate for dinner
Yeah.
and like all of that. It wasn't influencers who rent houses so that they can cook in a fancy kitchen that's not even their own, or the like get ready with me at 5 a.m. with the kids, like the all of that stuff. I think that why people keep returning back to social media is the hope that yes, there's that goal kind of piece to it, but also this like someone else has got to be out there posting a journey, but it's so hard to say I'm going to put the messy middle of my life
Mm-hmm.
onto social media.
Yeah. I think there's a return to that, though. I'm noticing a trend at the end of last year and now in this year, a trend that I'm thinking about hopping on as well, too. And it's the series of building, right? Come and build a business with me in 1 year, 30 days, 60 days, whatever these very creative kids are doing. But
Mhm.
it's a series of the experience. It's not about just the success story. There's one kid on social media right now, and he's young, and he is door dashing to buy his fiance or his future fiance her dream engagement ring. And the ring is $6,500, which is not a huge sum of money, but for a kid who's, they just started their lives together, they just got a house, right? $6,500, that's a
It's a
chunk of
lot.
money, right?
Yeah.
And so he's door dashing to do it. And I've seen that he blew up immediately. I think within by day 14, he had 200 something thousand followers. And I'm watching in the comments all of these jewelers sending him messages like, oh, we'll do it for you. We'll get it. And he's like, no, thank you. Like, he's doing it because the series is what provides that value. Imagine the value of the channel thereafter, which is takes me back to my entertainment law days and all the work I've done with content creators. Very interesting. But the point is that people are along for the ride. They want to see the incremental success. They don't want to see oh, I did this for 14 days and then here's an ad for the jeweler that gave me the ring for free.
Right.
So I think there's a return to that. Not necessarily a return to that, because obviously that happens every day. But I think what you're saying is true. I think people are now looking for the experiential series as opposed to the highlight reel of some creators. There's a shift occurring.
Yeah. And I think too, hopefully that will lead to something that's more authentic than what is there right now. Like I've thought about this for my business. It's like we're about to go into fundraising, and there's so many people that only talk about fundraising when they've raised.
Yeah.
And then they turn around and they're like, here's how you do it. And I'm like, I'm in this we'll call it the swirl right now of you reach out to people and they don't email you back. You reach out to people and they don't read your messages. And people are like, I had to connect with 200 people before someone returned. But you're doing that 200 person outreach completely alone.
Exactly.
When you know that as soon as you post that I've closed my round, blah, 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 that all of these people who have had that similar experience are going to show up and be like, oh yeah, I did too. Here's how I did this. And what value, like what an amazing amount of value you could provide if you shared just from the beginning. But there's that level of vulnerability that is horrendous.
Right. Because you will fail, right? At least once you're going to fail. And if you're normal, you'll fail 100 times, right?
Yeah.
But I think what you're saying is so on point. It's like, okay, so we raised and here's how we did it. And that's great. But that here's how we did it. It's not like a very simple ladder to climb. It is an amalgamation of all of the things that you did to get you there. And then connections within all those 200 people that landed you here somehow, right? Like it's not a simple process. If it were, it would be a simple process that you just follow and everyone gets their money. So I don't think that there's value in turning around and saying, well, here's how we did it. Well, that is such a specific to you story that's not solving my problem at all. But like you're saying, if we were in it together and we were trying the same things, right? Okay, you reached out to 200 people. Let me reach out to 200 people. They may not be the same people and they may end up at the same point where you do raise funds because of that in-between process that people like to skip over because it's not so cute and it's not so quick. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think there's a lot of vulnerability in it and that's why people don't do it. But I think we just got to rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah.
And just go for it.
Well, and I think too, like this is another like motherhood adjacent thing, right? Is like no one talked about how terrible it was to be up at 2:00 in the morning when you've slept for 20 minutes and like someone has a fever and someone's coughing and someone is just, all of the things.
Yeah.
But just think about, I don't even know who the first person was, but just think about when people started posting about the reality of that.
Yeah.
Or even going back to the pandemic when people started posting that like their kids are home and everything's closed, right? Like the people that would post online about, we all have the same 24 hours in a day as Beyonce. Well, when their childcare shut down, all of a sudden the tone
where'd they go?
went,
yeah.
Which I loved at the time because I never had consistent childcare until my kids went to school.
Yeah.
And so when I was like, oh, you guys are all hanging out with me now, like,
welcome.
This is super fun. Yeah. Welcome. We don't fold the laundry on like when it's still warm out of the dryer. We make a pile and we move on to the next snack. That's it.
It's true. Yeah. And I think there's a fine line too between commiserating, which at that time, totally appropriate. Right. But then also like connecting and like this experience that we're all having. And I think knowing that you're not alone in what you perceive to be a negative moment or a negative experience, it lightens it. It's like, okay. And then it's okay, if they're doing it, I can do it too, right? It's like you're now on a team of sorts. But you know what's happening right now, Ashley? I have been putting off the journey content for fear. And now you're making me feel guilty about not putting it out there.
Well, I'll do it if you'll do it.
I'm doing it.
All right.
I got to do it. Yeah. So now we're going to do it.
Yeah. Why not? Right.
Yeah.
I also think too, like you don't get an answer to the problem or you don't get an answer to that until you put it out there. Like I saw, and I wish that I had screenshotted or remembered the name of it, but there is an app now that you can get where you can say like, I'm up feeding my baby at 3 a.m. Is anyone else awake? And you can connect with other people who are awake at 3 a.m.
Really?
So you don't have this, like, it's me sitting alone in the dark, like, oh. But yeah, I saw it a couple weeks ago and it was like just,
That's
I
so
was
interesting.
scrolling through and I thought that only comes out of enough people saying it's really hard and it's really lonely and all of the dark and stormy thoughts and stuff like that come out when you're supposed to be asleep because your brain's like, listen, if you're not going to let us rest, we're going to the dark and scary place.
I'm like, yeah, just turn off then, please. Just turn off.
You asked for this. You're like, no, nobody asked for this.
Yeah, where's the power button? You have it.
But I do think that the process in all of this is really helpful, which is why I think that sharing it's not like I have all of this experience and all of these things happen and yada yada. It's like, no, I went through the process to get here is really important for people to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think so. Now I'm going to have to create the content. All righty.
I'll tag you in mine.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I think too, like I don't know if you feel the same way, but it's this idea of like, does anyone care? And I'm like, people are posting videos of like, God knows what. Someone cares.
More importantly, I'm watching videos of really stupid shit. And I'm like, really enjoying it. And I'm like, man, if this guy can post this. I'm like, dude. I mean, people will watch anything. I think, yes, I do think. So my sister is actually a very successful content creator. And there's a part of me that it's like, okay, I'm going to put this stuff out there and nobody's going to watch it. And it's a lot of effort to put the stuff out there. But I think ultimately, you just land in the right community of people. I think part of what stops me is not just the possibility of failure in doing what I'm doing, right? But also in the possibility of failure of the social media output, right? Like, if nobody watches, my mom's commenting like, good job, so proud. I'm like, stop, Mom. Just don't. But thank you. Yeah, you're so sweet. My dad, so funny enough, I have a TikTok for first gen law students. I have a community answering all the questions that I wish someone had answered for me.
Smart.
Because they don't answer anything, but that's neither here nor there. But anyway, I have this TikTok and my dad goes and he comments and he's like, oh, this really worked for me. Oh, your advice is so good. Thanks so much. And I'm like, Dad.
We have the same name, Dad.
Yeah, his name is Danielle Alvarez.
Like, no one will know. No dots will be connected by this at all.
He's just, it's so sweet. It's such a sweet thing that he does.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like posting as a first. Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
That cracks
He's a firefighter.
me up. Yeah. If I was going to go to law school, like, hi, Dad. I'll see you for dinner on Friday.
He's so sweet.
I love it. Now that you have navigated to the other side of a very, very long, difficult, arduous journey and have landed in a place that feels good and aligned and all of those pieces, and your kids are a little bit older, because I think that we also don't always like point that out. It's like people who have a 6-month-old, they're like, how come you don't have like a 12-step skincare routine? And you're like, I got 12 steps, but none of them are mine. What do you make time for that is specific to you? And how do you make that happen?
So I love to read. Reading is my hobby. And I did not read for joy throughout law school because it's just reading of the horrible case law. But eventually I made my way back to reading. So I read every single night and I put myself to bed at 8:30. And that's what I do. And I put the kids to bed, right? I'm like, get in your room, right? And I make that time for myself. That's my time. Aside from that, though, because they're older, I have more time to myself. They're always in school, right? During the day, they're always in school. I work during that time. I really try very hard to schedule my day to end at 2:30 because I don't want to be balancing homework and snacks and dinner and a client meeting. Because there's nothing that sets a 6-year-old off more than saying, I have a meeting. Can you please be quiet? All of a sudden, he wants to play with the Batman that he hasn't touched in 6 months. That recently happened to me. So I schedule my day like it's really top heavy so that in the afternoon I can work, but I don't have to be client facing. And I always remind myself that I am not an ER doctor. Nothing is truly an emergency. Nothing is life or death in my life, thank God, right? And and I just try to stay grounded in the present moment. And so I really enjoy spending time with my kids when they're doing sports. I scroll on my phone, which is very relaxing when you're a mom. I don't know if it's right. Like it's you too, right?
Yeah.
I need an hour to scroll and just turn off, right? So they're doing sports, I'll scroll, and they're pretty independent. So it's not what it was when they were little, where it's like every second they need something. Although for some reason on the weekend that feels like that's what it is. But I don't know. I make time for myself by staying very grounded, setting my bedtime hard line, and reading. It's the thing I look forward to the most for myself.
Yeah. What are you reading right now?
I am reading. So I read the ACOTAR series. My sister put me onto it, which I don't know if you know. It's about fairies and such. And then I read, that author has 2 other series. So I read the Throne of Glass series, which was very good. Highly recommend it. And then I'm reading now the other series that she have. I'm on the last book of Crescent City. So it's like, yeah, I listen to business books and other things like that, but I read with my eyeballs the stuff that I enjoy.
Are you a book person or a e-reader?
So I love a book, but I can't see. So I have a Kindle. I love a paper book, but at night I can't see it. I cannot see it. And then I don't like to have like super blue light. So I have the Kindle like on like the nighttime mode. And then I found on Amazon, this is my favorite purchase of my life. It holds your Kindle on like a little pillow, and then you have a little controller that turns the page for you. So I am laying down on my bed with my Kindle turned sideways so I could read it and just clicking.
Amazing.
It is my favorite purchase ever of my life.
I love to read, and I read at night. I can't read any like fiction, fantasy, any of that stuff. I do all of the reading for like business, parenting, like all of the things related to like stuff that I write about at night. Because if I sit down and read a book that has a storyline and all that stuff, it's 1 a.m. And I'm like, I did it again. Like, just another page. Like, where?
That's fair. That it happens on occasion. I try to force myself to go to bed, but yes, that's totally fair.
Yeah. I think it is interesting because I made my way back to reading, like, especially during COVID when it was like, you can't watch the news. No, everything on your phone is terrible. Like everything is everything all the time. And that's just something that's really nice about being able to like not have anything to interact with. Yeah. Nothing gets planted.
Right.
Just kind of, you just simmer down.
You plant it yourself, but yes.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
At least some gardening. Yeah.
I like that, the remote idea though. That's cool.
I highly recommend it. It's life-changing. I used to have to keep my finger out and just...
Now you can be in full like possum mode with like the covers up.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm basically the only thing I'm not doing is sleeping, but I'm laid out right. Like I'm ready to go. If my eyes close, I'm fine. I'm in position.
Just shift the Kindle over.
That's it.
And carry on.
My husband, I put it in the middle of the bed. My husband's always like, "Can you take this island out of the bed, please?" It's like right in his face.
Like I turn the light down.
Yeah.
Whatever.
He'll like have his phone resting up against it, and then I'll like move it to like take it off the bed, and he's like,
"I'm working here."
So my phone fell.
Yeah.
It's funny.
My God. I love it. So when did you start your firm?
Okay, so I launched my firm in November.
Yay.
And prior to that, I was doing mergers and acquisitions and entertainment law. So I launched in November, and I've just been doing a lot of networking, and I've been meeting with a lot of small business owners and like walking them through stuff. They have so many of the same questions. So now I'm kind of thinking, okay, maybe I can turn this into some form of a community. It's hard to give legal advice in a group setting.
Yeah.
So it has to be kind of in a business advisory role, but the questions are so similar, so common across the board, independent of the sector of business. And the best part of all of these conversations is at the end when they're like, "I feel so much better." And I'm like, I know, because I've had that legal anxiety. not knowing. And I think the most rewarding part about working with small businesses is that this is someone's whole dream. This is someone's like everything. And having been through the building process, like you're saying, that journey, having personally lived the journey of a small business, I know the pressures that entrepreneurs carry on their shoulders, right? And to be able to relieve some of that pressure with answers, with information, because it's not always that I'm servicing all these people. Sometimes I have a consultation and I can just answer these questions that have been weighing so heavily on them. Taking a little bit of that weight off, I remember, I know what that would have felt like for me. And that makes me feel that feeling that I want my kids to have at the end of the day. That's the feeling that I get from that. It's like, yeah, okay, I made someone's day a lot better. And in return, I made their family's day better. I made their employees' day better, right? Like it trickles all the way down.
Yeah. So where do you want this to go to? Like where do you see it?
Oh yeah. So my vision for this is grand. It's grand because this is accessible legal services for small businesses that should be accessible to small businesses across the United States. So I really would like to be in competition with LegalZoom. However, and this is the caveat, and this is where I know that I could receive pushback, in the scaling phase, depending on who I want to bring in, or I don't know, just the gurus, right? This is not a business that is designed to be as efficient as possible. I want to be efficient when I'm servicing you because it's flat fee, right? The law firm model where you get paid more the longer you take to do something, right? That is inefficient for the small business owner. A flat fee could be inefficient for the lawyer if I'm moving too slowly. So I want to give you good service and get it done quickly, but I'm not trying to rush through the educational portion. It's really important to me that you understand what you're getting, what your rights and obligations are under the contract or in the transaction. And that's the part where I say I want to compete with LegalZoom, but I'm not interested in being like LegalZoom, right? Where it's very robotic. I'm not saying that it's not cost effective, and I'm not saying that it's not, good for some people. Obviously, they're doing well, so it works for others. But I think it's missing such a human touch. So I would like to feel like a traditional law firm in that you get to speak to your lawyer directly and get your questions answered, but also be accessible in a way that more expensive firms are not.
Yeah, I love that because it's, you have the vision for where it could go, but building it in a different way that I think a lot of people especially small business owners who you said have a lot of legal anxiety. You don't know how much it's going to cost. You just assume it's going to be too expensive.
Exactly.
Can reach out.
Yeah. And so they don't even get the question answered. Yes, exactly.
So can you work with people? Are you just Florida based? Can you work with people anywhere? How does that?
So as a transactional attorney, I can work with people anywhere. I cannot necessarily advise or guide you on law in other states. However, a transaction or a contract, it has a governing law clause, and that does not require any analysis of that state's laws. It just has to be governed by that. So I can work with people anywhere. And if I come across a situation where I can't, then I have attorneys that I can refer to.
Love that. I think that's also really important for people to know because it's like, well, if you're based in Florida, then it must only be for Florida. But depending on the type of law, I think that's really important.
Because it's corporate law too. So I can do formation of entities anywhere and then draft the documents around that regardless. So it's much more flexible than litigation, which I do not do. I do not litigate.
Yes, I'm sure. And like less intense in all of that. Well, please let people know where they can find you and reach out and follow your journey content once you put that out there.
So you can find me at sblslaw.com, Small Business Legal Solutions. You can find me on the website, book a free consultation there. You can find me on LinkedIn, Danielle Alvarez, JD MBA or Esquire MBA now. And you can send me an email, Danielle@sblslaw.com.
I love it. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Ashley. It was such a nice conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.